Hey everybody. I thought I would show a little bit of video progress on where the current game I'm messing around with, where it's at. So it's called Yokai. It's very obviously Zelda-inspired, and it's about Japanese mythology and what are known as like yokai, which are kind of mythical monsters and whatnot in Japanese kind of folklore. So anyway, right now I'm just kind of in a little demo that I threw together. So this is, I guess I should preface this by saying this is really rough, and I had been making just a bunch of different things, and so I just kind of threw everything together with as much rhyme and reason as I could muster up. But some of these things like would totally not be in the first dungeon. The first dungeon would be really much more simple than this. So, and also thematically it doesn't really make sense either. So anyway, right now we're on a beach. This is some sand, here's some water. This is supposed to be like a rock face, but it's really super rough. There's no rounded edges, anything like that. So here, the first thing we have are, little seagulls. They're just kind of animating there, just chilling. And when you get close enough, they kind of fly away. Pretty basic. And I'm sure I could throw way more polish into them to make them really cool. And eventually I plan on having like little crabs as well, and also the whole beach area will probably be substantially larger than this. I've already made like palm trees, and I've made like shallow water and all that stuff, but in the long run the main character is meant to like wash up on shore, and it's supposed to be hinted at that like some sort of creature maybe started a storm, and that's supposed to be like the final boss of the demo that I'm making in the long run. So anyway, we have little torches, which this is where it kind of thematically doesn't make much sense, because this is supposed to be more like a cave, but as we walk inside, you'll notice it's not really a cave. There's brick walls and like patterned floors and stuff like that. So I guess the first thing that I should note is like right here, I'm just gonna hold down, just down. So one kind of cool thing that after I got some people to play this little demo, they said, hey, it's kind of difficult to go into the doorways, because they didn't really play video games all that much, so they didn't realize that it's like, oh, well, you can just hold like a diagonal direction, and eventually, as soon as you can move up or as soon as you can move down, it'll do that, just from holding diagonally. They would instead be like this and just hold down, and then they'd walk into the wall, so it would be kind of frustrating. So essentially, I just made it so it kind of magnetizes you to the to the doorway if you're close enough, which essentially what it does is it looks, if you're moving down, it looks down, just straight up down a few pixels, and then it checks down and left and then down and right a little bit. And if there's a door object, because there's like a door object below the character right here, it's just invisible. If that exists, then if we're checking down and right and it exists, then it'll move you to the right a little bit. So that's just one, I guess, minor little tiny thing that makes it more enjoyable for some people at least, or easier to play. So anyway, right here, most of the rooms look really bare. Like I'll show you here, there's just like a little locked door here. This room looks pretty terrible right now because it has nothing in it. So I tried to sprucing things up a bit. That's when I ended up making the torches, and then I made these little vases. So the vases are really basic. It's just if they come into contact with a hitbox from the player, they disappear. There's no animation. Right now there's no sound anywhere in the game. But anyway, that's a really minor thing. And eventually they'll have some sort of drop, like they'll drop a heart, whereas right now I just randomly have hearts sitting here. And also there's totally these hearts in the HUD kind of look confusing. So my plan with these hearts up here for the HUD is to, behind them, first off, they should be drawing like above the player, but secondly, I plan on having like a scroll of some kind to be like the backdrop of the hearts that will hopefully like expand to the maximum number of hearts or something like that. So anyway, with all of that said, I guess let's go to the next room. So this is the first room. Here we have, it may not be very apparent when they're not active, but they're little spike traps. So along the lines of, I know Rogue Legacy has some, and I think Shovel Knight also has some, where once you walk on top of them, after a certain time frame, they shoot up. So right now, unfortunately, I don't actually have them so they do any damage, but I guess the logical thought for me here is to have, these doors that are kind of blocking your path through the dungeon, and I'm trying to make it obvious that it's like, oh look, there's a there's a little circle / square thing, and hey, there's another one right here. So it's supposed to be that, hey, we're standing here, and that makes them go away. So I think, considering there's absolutely nothing else in this room, this kind of same setup could be used later on. So here we have some bats, and they're really, really basic AI. It's just, hey, if the player is to the left, cool, move to the left. If the player is to the right, cool, move to the right. And that's pretty much it. So eventually I'll make them a little bit smarter, or actually maybe a little bit dumber. Maybe I'll just make them move randomly. But right now they can also like move within each other, which eventually would hopefully not be the case. But if they hit you, they kind of move you back, and they make your opacity a little bit less, which eventually I think I'll try to make it so the character actually flashes when he's like in an invulnerable state, which that's what that kind of signifies. So let's just kill them, and now that my health is down a little bit, I guess I'll refill my hearts, and I guess I can show that right now the maximum number of hearts is 5. So if I move over here and get this heart, I'm still at 5. It doesn't let me go past that. So anyway, moving further along, I guess before this next room happens, I should mention what it is actually happening, because it happens like really quickly, to the point where it's probably happening too quickly. And the thing I'm trying to get across probably isn't very apparent to people who would be playing the game. So in this game, I plan on having like a bunch of traps, just like, these spike traps. I plan on having stuff like in Spelunky, there are arrow traps. And also in like other Zelda games, there's the little like spike ball things that are in the corners that when you walk towards them, if they share the same X or Y value, they like go towards you. In that same regard, I plan on having stuff like arrow traps and Spelunky. So I guess I'll just, considering this is a video, people can rewatch it, I'll just go in here. So what happens there is that kind of enemy is like a snake in Zelda, where if it shares the same, and also like the spike ball things that I just mentioned, if it shares the same X or Y value, it'll go towards you, it'll like charge towards you. And I just kind of threw this together where it's like, this is an arrow trap where if you are in its line of sight, it'll shoot an arrow at you, and the same thing with any enemies. So what that enemy did, because I was right here and I was on the same kind of, I guess, the same Y value, it'll charge at me along, an X path. So it came into contact with, this line of sight over here, and then it got hit by an arrow. So I'm trying to tell the player, I'm trying to show the player that this is an arrow trap, and it shoots arrows at you, and it will hurt you without, bringing up a text box or something like that. So that's what I was going for here. And then here, there's another arrow trap. So, and I don't really know a good way to kind of teach people about this, but one way to set it off, obviously, one way is to walk past it, but that's not very good, I guess. all the time, because sometimes it's like if you walk like down here and you walk past it, it'll actually miss you, but not by that much. And I mean, I kind of intend it to not be easily dodgeable. But another way is to actually just swing your sword. But I don't know of a good way to teach people how to do that without just bringing up a text box. One thing I've thought of is to have like a switch that opens doors, and make it so the switch is like right here, and then when you swing your sword to hit the switch to open a door, the arrow trap will also be triggered, and then you'll kind of be like, oh, I guess if I do this, this'll happen. So that's kind of a thing that maybe I might try in the future. But anyway, so here, just a cracked wall. In Zelda, you can blow them up, but I don't plan on really using bombs. In fact, I plan on like only having the sword in this game, so you can just hit it with your sword. So anyway, this is just like a basic enemy AI with no like visualization. It just chases me if I get close enough. So that's a pretty pointless room at the moment. But so here we have a sword, or not a sword, a key. So we pick it up. So now we can go open up that door that was locked before earlier in the dungeon. So now we can just backtrack. And again, like especially after you kill the enemies here, it's like this room is like completely indistinguishable. So it for sure needs like some stuff on the walls, or some cracked tiles, or something like that to make it easier to not get lost and make it easier to know where the hell you are. So anyway, let's go back to the beginning of the room here, or beginning of the dungeon. And so now we're back at the little locked door here. So now that we have a key, which ideally I would probably have like a little, notification here that like, hey, you have a key, or maybe, by the hearts instead. But there we go. Now that we're touching it with the key in our inventory, we can open it up. So here, this is supposed to be like the final kind of boss area kind of deal. And again, these enemies can like totally run into each other, which will eventually be fixed. And I will actually try to kill one of these enemies, or a few of these enemies, so I don't die. But so essentially this this little snake looking chick, let me see, this this little snake woman type thing, I think it's like Nure Ona, that's the name of her in Japanese mythology. And I'm just going to kill this guy because he's kind of self-explanatory. It's just a skeleton that throws bones at you at increments. But anyway, this chick, again, thematically, this doesn't really make any sense, because she's supposed to be by like streams and like rivers and oceans and stuff like that. So when this dungeon is more like cave themed, it might make more sense. But anyway, she just kind of roams around, and then if you share the same X or Y value as her, she charges towards you if she's not already charging. So yeah, that's actually pretty much it. So let's see, let's fill up our hearts, because why not, although we're actually not filled up yet. But so this was back to the, especially here, this is another good example of like, where the hell am I? Like, these rooms are exactly the same after you've killed everything. But anyway, so that was it. Now it just dumps you into the ocean, because why not? So I just thought I would make this video because, one, in 6 months, if I actually complete this project, it'll be really cool to look back at. And two, I thought I would just share with everybody kind of where I'm at. And I think I like video a lot. I love the people who are the people who are making Elysian Shadows. For a long time, they had adventures in game development, which I love. And they've kind of, shit has kind of hit the fan for them. But, hopefully their game comes out very shortly. And, yeah, anyway, I always love watching videos like that. I love like documentary type things. I just like video a lot more than like text personally. So I'm still going to be updating my TIG source with a lot of text entries and GIFs and stuff like that. But I thought I'd switch it up and make a video and see if anybody likes watching them. And I know in time, I know I will like watching them as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully I'll have another update soon. Thanks.